Welcome back to the channel. My name is Felicia. Thank you guys for stopping by. We've made it to the end of the year. 2024 is literally right around the corner in less than a week. So I'm excited for the new year. I'm excited for new possibilities, new adventures, exploring my new environment a bit more. If you guys are longtime subscribers, then you would know that I've moved this year from New Jersey to Maryland. So we've done a lot this year, a lot of just new things, new exciting things. So thank you guys for sticking around during our transition. I know my name, as of the filming of this video, my name is still Jersey Wife, Jersey Life. I have to be honest, I mentioned to you guys about 8 months ago, right around the time that we moved here, that I was planning on changing my name, my YouTube name that is. And I still plan on changing the name. I just haven't come up with one that I really love. Now there are a few names that I'm floating around and I've shared them with my husband, and I think there's a couple that I'm leaning more towards. Obviously I have to narrow it down to one. So my goal is to update my YouTube name by the start of the new year. I gave myself a deadline that this name has to be changed by the end of January, just because I'm no longer in New Jersey. So as 2023 comes to a close, I just wanted to share some of my favorite plant purchases of the year. Now these are you know what, I shouldn't say my favorite plant purchases, because some of the plants I have purchased in 2023, then there are other plants that I've had for the past 2+ years that have survived the move. So again, I mentioned that we moved and we lost maybe like 1 to 2 plants during the move. Some plants just didn't survive. Then I had other plants that didn't make it because of, you know, weather conditions and just kind of finding the right place within our home to move the plants. So I'm going to talk about the plants that withstood all of that and they're still here and thriving. And it's some of the plants I just continue to enjoy year after year. I got rid of the share just to make things a bit easier as far as sharing the plants. So here are the plants. If you have been around for a while, then you would know that I recently moved my plants upstairs in our home. I'm currently standing and filming in one of our spare bedrooms. I used to have the plant shelf downstairs in the lower level of our home, but because of the weather conditions and just kind of figuring out the temperature and all of that, we decided to move it upstairs. I have had plants suffer because of the temperature in the home. So in no particular order, the first plants that have made it to my list of 2023 favorites is my Monera Peru. And this is what my Peru looks like. I purchased this plant, I probably had it now for about a year and a half maybe. And this plant has grown so much. Hopefully you can see it. I know it's a bit hard with the plants in the background. But when I first bought this plant, it was much smaller than this. It wasn't a tiny plant, but it also wasn't, I wouldn't consider it like a medium-sized plant. But this plant has grown so much. Now I would say there are some leaves that are brown, case in point. But aside from that, I haven't had much trouble at all with this plant. This plant survived our move from state to state. It also survived some of the, you know, changes in temperature here in our home. But I adore this plant and I'm so glad that I got my hands on one. I would also say this is also a very easy to care for plant. If you're looking for a plant that's easy to take care of and a plant that you don't really have to put a ton of effort into, then I would suggest the Monera Peru. The next plant that we're going to talk about today is my Hoya Crimson Queen, and this is what she looks like. Now this plant, it is a slow grower, and as you can see, it's still in a pretty small pot. I got this plant from one of my favorite nurseries in New Jersey that's actually no longer open for business. But when I first purchased this plant, it was pretty small. Hoyas are pretty slow growers. If you guys have Hoyas, then you would already know, but this one has grown quite a bit. Again, it's another easy to care for plant. At least it's easy for me. I can't necessarily say that a plant is easy to care for because it's all relative, right? It depends on where you live. If you live in a warmer climate, then any plant could be considered easy to care for. But if you live in an area that has all the seasons like we do, then some plants can give you a little bit of a challenge. But this one has been pretty easy going so far. It has grown a ton, as I mentioned, and I've mentioned it in past videos, but when you see these little stems here, that means that you're bound to expect new growth. As you can see here, I'm not sure if you can tell, but this piece is new growth because it kind of has like its own little shoot off to the side. But this has grown quite a bit. Again, when I first bought it, it was really small. It's grown a lot to the point where it's like hanging over. I'll put it in front of my shirt so you guys can see. But I love this plant. I think it's a beautiful plant. It's called the Crimson Queen, but there's also some leaves. You will see a little bit of pink. You won't necessarily see it right now just because, again, the weather. Over the summer and spring, I did see some leaves that were pink, but love this plant. It's a very hardy plant, and this is the second plant in my list of 2023 favorites. Before we move on to the next plant, let me talk about my Hoya carnosa compacta. I mentioned it in a previous video, but I used to have a beautiful full Hoya carnosa compacta, and unfortunately that plant, I no longer have the plant. I do have an offshoot of that plant, but when I talk about that plant, the reason why I brought it up is because I wanted to mention my mini Hoya carnosa compacta, and this is what she looks like. This plant has grown quite a bit, similar to the Hoya Crimson Cream that I just showed you. This one also has like a little stem there on the side, so I'm expecting to see some new leaves from this plant in the spring and summer. This is another slow growing plant. I got this plant from Amazon because when I was looking for this plant, I didn't find it in any of my go-to nurseries at the time. Again, this was back in Jersey, so I went on Amazon, I purchased it when it was really tiny, and this is how much it has grown. I've had this plant now for, I would say, close to 2 years, like a year and a half, 2 years. I got into indoor plants, just to give you guys a little bit of background. I got into indoor plants back in 2020 when, you know, things were kind of crazy in the world. And I started off with faux plants, and I think I'll do a separate video on faux plants versus live plants. A lot of my friends, family, everyone thought it was so weird that I was into plants because it's not anything that anyone in my family is necessarily into, but it's just something that I took a strong interest in, and now here we are today. So I say all that to say, when I started off with plants, I started off with fake plants, faux plants, and then I just figured, you know what, I started doing some research and I really dove knee deep into plants and learning about different types of plants and learning how to care for it. But anyways, I say all that to say, when I learned about the Hoya carnosa compacta, I might have seen it in a few different videos. I was on a mission to get this plant, but I just wasn't able to find it in any of my local nurseries, so that's why I went onto Amazon and I purchased this plant. I knew that it was going to be a slow grower, but I'm the type of plant parent, I love buying plants when they're small to medium in size because I do love watching them grow. That's not to say that I won't ever buy a plant if it's already large in size, but I just enjoy, one of the joys to me of being a plant parent is watching the plants grow, watching, you know, all the care and attention that you put into the plant, and then watching this is the payoff. And this is definitely a plant that has shown quite a bit of payoff because of how much growth it has shown. So the next plant we're going to talk about is my beautiful Ponytail Palm. This is the first Ponytail Palm that I've had. I've since had one other plant, but unfortunately I no longer have that plant. If you're interested in the story of that plant, I'll be happy to share it in another video. My husband actually got this plant from me as a Christmas present in, I want to say 2020, either 2020 or 2021, I don't remember. But when he bought the plant originally, it was pretty small. It was on the smaller side. This is another plant I would say takes its time to grow. Again, it depends on where you live. If you live in a warmer climate, then you may see a little bit faster growth. But because we, again, live in all seasons, and me most recently living in New Jersey, this plant has taken quite a while to grow. But that's another reason why, I think you guys can see it here in the camera, I do have grow lights to kind of assist with some artificial light for my plants. So as I said, this plant was on the brink of getting tossed out because it was doing really bad. I kept having a ton of brown leaves. This one actually has a brown leaf right now, if you guys can, I don't know if you can see it.
Can you see?
But, see?
Oh my God.
Yeah. My daughter's here in the room, so you might hear some extra comments in the commentary in the background. There's been a lot of leaves I'd have to toss out because of brown leaves, yellow leaves, but this plant has, it stood the test of time. I can honestly say that. Now, one thing that really helped this plant, in my opinion, was putting the plant outside. So all summer, I would say between the months of June to about September. So for 3 months, I had this plant outside, and then I eventually, of course, brought it in because of the change in temperature. And I feel like that really helped this plant out a lot. It has grown so much. Now, I would say the previous plant that I had that I unfortunately no longer have, that one was gorgeous as well. That one actually had beautiful curly leaves, and I just loved it so much. But this one has really, this one is a trooper. I would say out of all my plants, this one right here, it really did a complete 180, and it is doing a lot better now. So this is plant number 4 on my favorites list for 2023.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
If you need to use the bathroom, you may do this.
Okay.
Yeah, if you need to.
That means bathroom?
Yeah.
Now the next plant on my favorites for 2023 is my Chinese evergreen. I decided to take it out of the plant pot just because it was a lot easier. Another thing about me personally, and you guys may want to jot this down on your list of things to consider as a plant parent, I keep almost all of my plants in a nursery pot. So you can get these pots at Home Depot, Lowe's, a local plant nursery, wherever, just because I find it easy when it comes to watering the plant. So I would keep the plant, of course, in this decorative pot, but I would place it in there as so. So you're seeing the beautiful plant, you're seeing the beautiful decorative pot, and then when it's time to water the plant, you just simply take it out. I just find it easier to kind of help regulate how much you're watering the plant, and you don't have to worry about overwatering it. But anyways, the Chinese evergreen. This is another plant that I've had for quite some time. I consider it a pretty easy to care for plant. It's never given me any issues. I just love the variegation on the leaves. I mean, take a look at that. And the Chinese evergreen plant, there's so many different varieties. I believe this one, I always forget. I believe this one is the Silver Bay. If I'm wrong, I'll put the correct name on the screen. But the Chinese evergreen, I mean, they're just so beautiful. Very, very beautiful plant. It almost looks fake, but I assure you, this is a real plant. You'll notice a theme here with my plants. A lot of my plants, in my opinion, again, they're easy to care for plants. You know, I'm a mom, clearly. You know, I work, you know, I have all these things going on in my life. So if you're looking to decorate your home with indoor plants, but you're kind of worried about killing the plants, because I know I was in the beginning, you might want to consider the Chinese evergreen. Of course, people talk about things like snake plants and ZZ plants, but I consider this one that you should consider as well.
Okay.
The last and final plant I'm going to add to this list, what is that? 7 plants? Such an arbitrary number, but I'm just going to show you 7. That plant is my Monera plant, so you guys are watching the plant right now. That plant is like a reincarnation of a reincarnation. So when I first bought my Monera, and I'll show you guys the original plant, it was beautiful. It gave me a lot of growth, and I believe I purchased the plant like in the spring, summertime. So of course, warm weather, so the plant was just like growing like crazy. Again, I consider that another easy to care for plant. So the plant was growing kind of wild, to be honest, and in my previous space, it was getting too wild to the point where I had to cut it back. So from that mother plant, I created like 4 individual plants from that propagation. And so out of all of those plants, I only have 1 propagation remaining. I no longer have the mother plant. I no longer have the other 3 propagations, but this plant withstood the test of time. I'm saying withstood the test of time as if it was really difficult. This plant, the Monera, again, very easy to care for. As you can see, I have this plant by a window, yet and still this plant is continuing to thrive. I even recently noticed some new growth on there, and again, we're in the middle of winter, and for your plant to be giving you new growth in the middle of winter, that says a lot, because as all of you guys know, if you're plant parents out there, your plants will experience some dormancy in the winter. It's definitely a plant that I plan on repurchasing again in the spring, summertime. There's a list of plants I intend on purchasing in the spring, summer. If you guys want a wish list plant video for 2024, let me know. Although I did one for 2023, and a lot of those plants, clearly, they didn't make it into our home, but that's only because I'm gonna blame it on the move. I didn't want to purchase any new plants because we were moving. So that is my favorite plants of 2023 list. As you can see, I have a ton of plants on here that I love all of them equally. I have my pothos plants here at the top. I have my money tree that I need to do some trimming on, and I have a ton of things on here, but those ones that I shared with you, I'm just so happy that they've survived all of the different things we had going on this year. So let me know if you guys have a favorite list for 2023. Thank you guys for watching. Happy New Year. I hope you guys had an amazing holiday season, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.